morning, everyone. So many people attended today's Hatsubon and Obon service. I'm so grateful that I can share the Dharma with you this morning. So before I start my message, let me read a passage from Shinran Shonin, who is the founder of our school, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. So may I ask you to put your palms together? My life has now reached the fullness of its years. It is certain that I will go to birth in the Pure Land before you. So without fail, I will await you there. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Again, thank you very much for coming to this service. And then Bob Sensei, thank you very much for wonderful introduction of my family. Actually, just boys here. Maybe some of you are wondering, where is my wife? She has a break. All boys come over to the Sacramento, and then, she's by herself from last night. So I don't know what she's doing, but I'm sure she's really happy. So this is Obon and the Hatsubon service. And how many Hatsubon family members? So Hatsubon family, you've lost somebody in your family in the last 12 months. So this is the first Obon to commemorate or remember your loved ones. So as this pamphlet, the handout, and then as Bob Sensei mentioned, so the kind of reality of life, the reality of impermanence, or you kind of have a deep grief or suffering. So, and then Jodo Shinshu, or Buddhism, teaches how to deal with those suffering and grief. Right? So today, I'm going to a little bit about how Jodo Shinshu and Buddhism deal with our grief, the grief of loss. So let me begin with this. Can you see? People back there, can you see this? I hope you have a good eyes to see this. I'm not sure this is large enough, but it says what? Mindfulness. The mindfulness. So I'm a Japanese guy and who came to the United States over 12 years ago, and I grew up at the temple, and I studied Buddhism. And one big difference between Japanese Buddhism and then American Buddhism is maybe this one. In the American Buddhism, kind of more much emphasis is put up on this mindfulness, right? Mindfulness. So I'm sure people practice Buddhism or people come to the temple, listen to the Dharma, maybe for this, right? Mindfulness. So this is because, right? This is because it's hard. Most people are not living a life of mindfulness, right? So that's why people come to the temple, listen to the Dharma, and then practice Buddhism so that they can, live a life of mindfulness. In other words, our life, daily life, is kind of distracted, right? Distracted. So, many distractions, right, around our daily life. So, one of the most strongest distraction to myself is this one, right? Many people laugh. So you know how this one distract our daily life. So anytime we have a free time, we just pick up our cell phone and then open, apps and then start, texting or, browsing internet or, checking emails, With this small device, we can do almost everything, right? So we are so drawn to this small guy. And then our life is kind of so distracted. So this is a kind of one big, distraction in our daily life, right? And then there are many other distractions in our daily life, right? So another distraction, I would say, is maybe anxiety, more kind of internal thing, internal distractions. Right? So anxiety sometimes distract our life. So anxiety is coming from our financial situations, financial issues, can distract our daily life. Or maybe anxieties about relationship with our friends, relationship with our co-workers, relationship with our relatives, or sometimes kind of anxieties, about the relationship with our family members, right? And then also anxiety about myself, like my health condition, right? Or my aging, right? And then, or at the end of aging, someday we have to close our life, which is death, right? My own death. Or also death of our loved ones, right? When we seriously think about those kind of things, those anxieties kind of big, kind of distractions, which prevent us from living a so-called mindful life. Right? So, I mentioned that death or end of our life. Personally, death or end of my life or death of our loved ones is a big issue. Right? It's a kind of big homework for all of us that we should work on, should find the solutions during our life, right? So in other words, once we can find the solutions or the way to deal with this big issue of end of our life, or kind of loss of our loved ones, then we can have more, focus on our daily life, which means we can reduce the kind of distractions of our life, right? So my understanding, to find the way to figure out, or solve, or deal with the issue of loss or separation or death, right? And then we can live a mindful life. And then we can receive a strength or power to live, our daily life here and now more positively, right? And then Buddhism, and then Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, have a very clear answer about this issue. So let me, share my kind of personal story, which is my grandma, my ba-chan. She passed away July 12th, 2008, about 10 years ago, at the age of 96. She lived long. Right? My parents, I'm from temple family, and then my father is a resident minister, and then my temple has a preschool. So my father works at the preschool, and then also my mom, she worked at the preschool. So after school, I went to my ba-chan's house my grandma's house, right? And then she took good care of me until my parents come back from work. So I'm like a oba-chanko. I'm a kind of grandma boy, right? So we spend a lot of time, and then she taught me lots of things. And she always smiles. She always recites Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, and then morning, evening. In Japan we have a obutsudan, home altar, home shrine. So she goes to home shrine, and she has a service morning and evening every day. Right? So I found she's a really kind of devout, Jodoshin Buddhist. She kind of enjoyed her life with Buddhism or Jodoshinshu teaching. Right? But her life was not easy, right? She married my grandpa, my ji-chan, who was a Jodoshinshu minister too. And he was Kaikyoshi minister, overseas minister. So during the World War II, my grandparents, they went to Manchuria to spread the Jodoshinshu teaching, right? But during their stay in Manchuria, they lost 3 children. There were 3 children. So my father is the only one who could survive. So 1942, in June, they lost their oldest son at the age of 4. Right? And then 2 years later, 1944, July 8th, they lost second daughter at the age of 2. And then August 1st, so within 20 days, they lost another daughter, the oldest daughter, at the age of 4. Right? So the first son, he died, he passed away at the age of 4. And then 2 years later, within 20 days, they lost 2 daughters, age 2, age 4. Right? Now I'm, parents, I have 3 boys. I cannot imagine how hard it is to, lose, kids, child at, that early age. Right? So my dad was the only one who could survive, and but he also had a kind of very bad health condition because of malnutrition, right? In those days, actually those 3 kids, children, they died because of malnutrition. Right? So anyway, I think that is a time for my grandma, the hardest, most difficult time in her life, right? So within 2 years, she lost 3 children, very, very young children. And then I think what supported, what helped her, was Buddhism or Jodoshinshu teaching. Right? So, of course, her husband, my grandpa, as a Jodoshinshu minister, of course, they supported each other, but she, listened to the Dharma, and then she said the Nembutsu. That's how she could, deal with the loss or separation of her children. So that's why every day she recited the Nembutsu. Every day, morning, evening, she went to the, home shrine and had a service. And then whenever, she went to a home altar for a service, she said, Amida-san ni orei o shi ni iku. In Japanese, Amida-san ni orei o shi ni iku means I go to the Buddha for, showing my appreciation. Say thank you to Amida Buddha. As a child, for me, it's kind of strange. She lost 3 children, but how come, she could say thank you to Amida Buddha? Right? So, but now I realize, because of the teaching of Amida Buddha, she was saved. She was helped with the teaching of Nembutsu. Right? So the passage that I read at the beginning of this service is a letter from Shinran Shonin. So he lived 90 years old, right? He was a 12th century figure in Japan. It's kind of amazing. He lived until 90 years old in the 12th century, right? And then this is a letter from Shinran to his follower, right? And then this letter was written about he was like 88 or 87. He's kind of end of his life, and he says, "My life has now reached the fullness of its years." Right? He realized, okay, my end is coming. Right? It is certain that I will go to birth in the Pure Land before you. Probably because of my age, I will close, my life before you, telling to his followers. So without fail, I will await you there. Right? So he's talking about that kind of after, closing his life. Right? So according to the teaching of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, once we close our life, right, it teaches we attain birth in Buddha's land, in Amida Buddha's land, and then we become Buddha. Right? This is a very basic teaching of Jodo Shinshu. And what does it mean? Right? Once we close our life, we attain birth Buddha's land, and then we become Buddha. What does it mean? It means, my interpretation is, death is not the end of everything. Death is not the end of everything. It is the kind of new beginning, new start of our life as a Buddha, enlightened one. For what? To guide us survivors. Right? So although our loved ones, they physically pass away, they are not here anymore. Right? But internally, spiritually, we can still connect it. We can be still connected, our loved ones. Right? So that's why we are here temple. Right? Sunday, we come here, listen to the Dharma. It's a kind of voice of our loved ones. Right? Now our loved ones, they are physically not here, but spiritually, kind of talking to us, sharing the Dharma to our heart. Right? So that's why we are here, listen to the voice of our loved ones. And then some of you have a Obutsudan home shrine. That is a place every day you can go there, and then you have a greeting, say hello to them, or listen to their voice. Right? So that is the function of Obutsudan home altar. Right? Every day you have a place within your house, you can have a communication with your loved ones. Right? So, and then with the Nembutsu, saying Namo Amida Butsu. Right? Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Although we say the words of Namo Amida Butsu comes out from our voice, but this is the voice from our loved ones. Right? It is also the voice of our loved ones. So within saying the Nembutsu, we also communicating or connected with our loved ones. Right? So Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, this is a kind of answer to or kind of the way to deal with the loss of our loved ones. Right? So as long as we live in this world of impermanence, someday we have to close my life, or someday we have to encounter the loss or kind of passing of our loved ones. Then how we should deal with it. Right? So Jodo Shinshu teaches us, once we die, where are we going? We attain birth in Buddha's land, the realm of nirvana. Right? And then what happens when we die? We become Buddha. We become enlightened one. Right? And then by becoming a Buddha, we can give a guidance to the survivors, us survivors, or still have a connection with us. Of course, still, I know death is a big issue, right? Loss of our loved one is a big issue. However, now we know how to deal with it. Right? So that's why we can live positively. Right? We can overcome the loss of our loved ones. And then not only death, but also there are many other issues in our daily life. Right? But at least to me, this kind of end of our life, loss of our loved one is a big issue to myself. But now I received a kind of guidance, a kind of solution to deal with it. So it's a kind of big reduction of my distractions or anxiety my life. Right? So that's why this is how Jodo Shinshu or Buddhism gives us the strength to live here and now positively, right? Living in the world of impermanence. But we have the strength or power to deal with this issue of impermanence. Right? And then the kind of mind, a kind of settlement could be called shinjin in the Jodo. So this is one description, interpretation of shinjin. This kind of settled mind is a kind of shinjin in the Jodo Shinshu tradition. And then when we have this kind of settled mind, then we can have we can focus on our daily life, right? And that is, I'd say, mindfulness in the Jodo Shinshu tradition. Right? So again, thank you very much for coming to this Obon Hatsubon service. So let me close my Dharma message by reading the passage from Shinran Shonin's letter again. So please join me, Gasho. My life has now reached the fullness of its years. It is certain that I will go to birth in the Pure Land before you. So without fail, I will await you there. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.